Ethan Donovan was dying, and the only hope left was a maid no one trusted. The Donovan mansion was drowning in silence. Ethan, once the pride of his billionaire father, Richard Donovan, now lay weak, pale, and spiritless. Dozens of doctors had come and gone. Specialists, professors, and therapists all failed. In a final act of desperation, Richard hired someone different. Not another nurse, not another world-renowned physician. A maid. Her name was Maya. She had grown up abroad, far from the Donovan world of wealth, carrying with her a groundedness that no amount of money could buy. She was black, soft-spoken, and carried an air of quiet resilience. The staff whispered it was absurd. What could she do? But when Maya stepped into Ethan's room, she did something no one else dared. She walked to the window, yanked the curtains open, and let sunlight pour into the darkness. Ethan flinched, turning away from the brightness. "Good," Maya whispered softly. "That means you're still alive." For the first time in months, Ethan's eyes flickered, drawn to the stranger who dared disturb his silence. The staff laughed behind her back. "She'll quit in a week," one said. "Or be fired," another added. But Maya didn't care. Each morning she carried a tray of food into Ethan's room, humming quietly. She knew he wouldn't eat, but she set it down anyway. She spoke as she worked, telling stories, not about medicine or therapy, but about little pieces of life. One afternoon, while she dusted the bookshelves, she said, "When I was a child in London, I used to sit on the rooftop just to watch the sunrise. My grandmother always said light is medicine. Sometimes it heals more than we think." Ethan didn't reply, but when she glanced at him, she saw it. His eyes were following her. He was listening. Days turned into weeks. Ethan still refused food, but something had changed. He began watching for Maya. He noticed the way she hummed when she cleaned, the way her dark eyes sparkled with mischief when she teased the staff, the way she refused to tiptoe around him like everyone else. One afternoon, as she placed a bowl of soup near him, she muttered playfully, "You don't eat because you think you're punishing the world, but the only person you're punishing is yourself." For a moment, the corner of Ethan's lips twitched. A flicker, a ghost of a smile. Maya's heart leapt, but she said nothing. She just smiled back, pretending not to notice. That night, for the first time in almost a year, Ethan tasted a spoonful of food. The first word he spoke after months wasn't to his father or a doctor. It was to Maya. "Why is life so cruel?" His voice was hoarse, cracked from disuse. Maya met his gaze, her voice calm. "Maybe life isn't cruel. Maybe it's just waiting for you to fight back." His eyes searched haze, and for the first time, he felt someone understood. Richard Donovan had built empires. He was a man used to results, to control. So when he noticed Ethan was sitting up more, his eyes brighter, his voice no longer silent, he didn't smile. He frowned. Late one night, he called Maya into his study. "What are you doing to him?" His tone was sharp, suspicious. "Nothing strange," Maya replied calmly. "I treat him like a person. I give him light, laughter, stories, things medicine can't." Richard's jaw tightened. Stories? Was that all it took? But pride wouldn't let him admit she was succeeding where millions of dollars had failed. It happened at dinner. For the first time in a year, Ethan joined his father at the dining table. He barely touched the food, but when Maya walked past, making a playful remark about how stiff both men looked, Ethan chuckled. The sound froze the room. Richard's fork clattered to his plate. His son had laughed. Not coughed. Not groaned. Laughed. Maya lowered her gaze to hide her smile, but inside, her heart soared. Ethan was coming back. Healing is never a straight path. One morning, Ethan refused to get out of bed. His smile was gone, his sketchbook untouched. When Maya urged him, he snapped, "Leave me alone." The staff smirked. "Told you, it was temporary." But Maya didn't leave. She sat quietly by the window, humming. She didn't push, didn't scold. She just stayed. After hours of silence, Ethan whispered, "What if I can't be fixed?" Maya turned to him, her eyes steady. "Then we'll learn to live broken, together." And that broke the darkness again. It started as simple conversations. But soon, Ethan was telling Maya things he had never told his father, never told anyone. His fears, his failures, his loneliness. And Maya, instead of offering empty comfort, shared pieces of herself. She told him of her childhood abroad, of mistakes, of insecurities she once carried. She didn't present herself as perfect. She presented herself as human. For the first time, Ethan felt seen. Not as a Donovan, not as a patient, but as a boy, fragile, flawed, yet worth loving. And Maya, though she never said it aloud, felt her heart pulling toward him in ways she hadn't expected. Richard stood outside Ethan's room one evening, listening. Through the slightly open door, he saw Maya and Ethan sitting on the floor surrounded by crayons and paper. Ethan was laughing, actually laughing, as Maya drew an exaggerated portrait of him with wild hair and lopsided glasses. Richard's chest tightened. He had paid for the world's best doctors, flown in specialists, burned money like fuel for a dying fire. Yet here was a young maid restoring what science could not. For the first time, Richard whispered, "Thank you, Maya." The breakthrough came quietly. Ethan, without being asked, walked into the garden one morning. His legs trembled, his face pale, but determination burned in his eyes. Maya rushed forward to steady him, but he shook his head. "Don't. Let me try." He made it only a few steps before collapsing onto the grass, laughing breathlessly. Richard, who had been watching from the balcony, found his own eyes wet. It wasn't about how far Ethan walked. It was about why. He wanted to live again. As days passed, the bond between Ethan and Maya grew unshakable. They painted sunsets together, shared stories under the stars, even baked a disastrous cake in the mansion's kitchen that left flour all over Maya's hair. One night, Ethan looked at her too long, too deeply. "You know, I don't think I'd be alive if not for you." Maya froze, her heart racing. She knew it was dangerous. He was her employer's son, and she was just a maid. But deep inside, she couldn't deny what was happening. They were no longer just patient and caretaker. Something gentler, riskier, was blooming. It was a family doctor who suggested it. "Since Ethan is gaining strength, we should run a full medical test, everything included." Richard agreed without hesitation. Maya accompanied Ethan, holding his hand through the process. But when the results came back, silence fell over the room. The doctor's face was heavy. "Ethan's genotype is as." Richard frowned, and the doctor hesitated. "And Maya, she's also as. If they marry, their children risk being SS." The room went still. Ethan's face paled, Maya's heart cracked, and Richard's eyes darkened with unspoken realization. The genotype results hung between them like a shadow. 4 days, Ethan avoided Maya, not out of anger but fear that fate had given them something they couldn't fight. One evening, he finally broke. "Why is life so cruel? Just when I found the one person who makes me feel alive. It has to be you." His voice cracked. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head. "Don't call it cruel. Call it grace. We found each other, Ethan. That is the gift. Even if we can't have forever the way we dreamed, IT doesn't erase what we share now." Richard, listening from afar, felt a strange pride. This young woman, whom he once doubted, had taught his son not just how to live, but how to love with dignity. Time passed, and Ethan grew stronger. He no longer needed constant care, but he never let Maya drift too far. On his 21st birthday, he shocked everyone by calling Maya onto the stage at his celebration. The whole fell silent as a billionaire's son lifted her hand. "This woman," Ethan said, his voice steady, "is the reason I'm alive today. I may not be able to marry her, but she will always be part of my life. My best friend, my anchor, my family." The crowd rose to its feet. Applause thundered. Richard himself raised his glass, his voice breaking. "To Maya, the woman who gave my son back to me." Maya, overwhelmed, could only bow her head as tears streamed down her face. And though she and Ethan never became husband and wife, they built something even rarer, a bond unbreakable, celebrated by all. Because sometimes love isn't measured by rings or vows. Sometimes Love is a life you give back to someone else. And Maya had given Ethan his life.